are some things in Fortnite we all regret, so today I'm investigating what players wish they could take back, starting with a massive controversy happening right now. Squid Game is popping in Fortnite with people super hyped for it, but before the collab release, creative map makers dropped their own Squid Game modes because they just couldn't wait any longer. This is where one map maker made a huge mistake. Instead of giving it a parody name like Octo Game or Crab Game, they straight up stole the show's logo and assets. Instead of removing this or even ignoring it, Epic actually promoted the map, and within minutes it was placed at the top of Discovery and got around 70,000 concurrent players. Well, after the community raised a ton of backlash about this, Epic still ignored them, until finally Netflix stepped in and copyrighted the map. Imagine being the guy who made this map, getting over 70,000 players, which is like tens of thousands of dollars, and then your map gets deleted overnight. That is tough. What about when the community asks for something and immediately realizes that was a mistake? After the Ferrari shocked everyone in Chapter 2, people loved it and begged Epic for more supercars. Huge wish lists of dream vehicles started being made, but there was only one way Epic could keep up with the demand for more and more, and that's making them skins. Now, in 2025, sure we have a lot of cars, but they're all just cosmetics for the whiplash and don't change the gameplay at all. And what's crazy is that the car that started all of this was brought back in Chapter 6 not as a new vehicle, but a skin you had to pay V-Bucks for. Let's talk about the one guy who is seriously regretting his actions right now, because Epic just sued him for almost $200,000. Did you know they won this week and claimed all the money will be donated to charity, something they usually do with these cases? And if that wasn't enough, they're obviously banned from Fortnite forever. So what did they do wrong? Turns out this wasn't a cheat seller or anything like that. It was simply someone who used cheats in a tournament. Then they swapped to other accounts to avoid getting caught, and in Fortnite's own words, it didn't work. Another thing people seriously regret is wanting a train this whole time. Other games like Warzone have great train systems that help you around the map, so naturally, everyone wanted one in Fortnite. Then it finally released for Chapter 5 and was a total letdown. You couldn't go inside of it, which we kinda hoped for considering this was in the cinematic showing coaches. All you could do is capture the train on a flat carriage for some loot. But after that, it appeared in a leak roadmap for Season 3 that showed insane concept art of a wasteland-style train. Somehow, we didn't learn our lesson from the first time where the train looked cool, because once the season began, the train wasn't even here. In fact, it was buried in sand. Then it came back a third time, taken over by Doom, who literally just reskinned it. For 4 more seasons, we would get constant tiny changes to this thing, but none of them solved the problem, and we quickly realized that we had spent 7 years wanting this and didn't even like it. And on the subject of the apocalyptic style train, well, this concept art got everyone excited because we thought Wrecked was gonna be a Mad Max season, or at least have a collab involved. Furiosa was coming to theaters at the time, it was literally perfect, and then as we all know, Wrecked ended up being one of the most hated seasons of all time. We wanted a wasteland full of cars, and when we got it, so many players regretted it badly. We also spent 7 years asking for Fortnite OG to come back. The nostalgia was just too powerful, and when Epic turned it into a mini season, the players came flooding in. It was a huge success. Then players discovered you gotta be careful what you wish for. We wanted the entirety of Chapter 1 back from start to finish, not remembering that Season 1 and 2 had like 0 content. So when OG became a permanent mode, it was actually insanely boring for a couple of months. I will say, as we approach the later seasons, the fun is coming back. And if you live in the US, you're gonna instantly regret not taking Epic's free money. The payout from the FTC lawsuit just went out, and if you signed up last year for your share of $126 million, you missed it. A couple days ago, they sent out the money, with some people getting up to $300 each. But now if you sign up, you'll get less than everybody else because there's only $20 million left to give away, which means it'll be closer to the $100 mark. In fact, by the time you sign up, there might be nothing left, so hurry. We also completely regret asking for an OG Chapter 2. I mean, it sounded great on paper, who wouldn't want to drop at places like the Agency or the Shark again? And what happened next was the very definition of being careful what you wish for. Epic gave us exactly what we wanted, except they replaced all of the most nostalgic POIs with rappers. Now sure, we also had characters like Meowtis in Remix, but that wasn't anything special. We wanted regular Midas back for so long that Epic just kept doing it over and over and over again. In fact, he's back right now funding the Supernova Academy. I love Midas, but like, what is going on? Now, no matter what your opinion is on Remix, I think we should all stop getting angry over collabs that haven't even been announced yet. A couple months ago, everyone thought Daft Punk would be the next festival artist, and then out of nowhere, we were blindsided by Epic revealing someone else instead. Scattered around the map and loading screens, Deadmau5 was here. They've only done this when an artist is going to be a part of festivals, so naturally the community assumed this was it. After all, the new season was only a few days away. People got super angry about it, roasting Deadmau5 deadmau5 for being irrelevant or calling out Epic for not choosing a more famous performer. But it's safe to say people jumped on the bandwagon early because it turned out to be Bruno Mars instead. And now for some people it's even worse because he's already in the game. Like, at least deadmau5 would have been new. Another thing a lot of people regret is simply asking for Squid Game at all costs. The community has wanted this for so long that we assumed Epic wouldn't mess it up. But with Squid Game finally here, people are shocked that it's just a bunch of default skins. Now personally, I think Epic should have learned their lesson from Tron and Ghostbusters, but we're also kinda at fault here for not realizing this could have happened. Here's the thing, it also works for the flip side of the argument as well. If you beg Epic for a huge collab that takes up an entire season, it still ends up being somehow a disaster. So many players wanted Star Wars to have more meaningful content and got rewarded with an entire season that basically turned the game into Battlefront 3. So what happened next? Fortnite got its lowest player count in years. We really need to think about what we ask for now, because one of the most demanded updates of all time is the return of OG skins. Players asked for these to come back for the longest time, and now, all of a sudden, everyone's complaining that it's made them meaningless. When the season shop came back with Renegade Raider, it was one of the craziest days to be a Fortnite fan because everyone was freaking out on social media about it. Now, it has gotten totally out of hand to the point where Epic is even bringing back emotes from seasonal events. For example, Deep End, which was meant to be exclusive to the 14 Days of Summer in 2019. I guess the real problem is the fact that we didn't buy them at the time. Now, this has always been a huge regret for players, and I think it's up there as something we all have in common. I guarantee there's at least one Fortnite skin out there that you regret not buying. Let me know in the comments what it is for you, but personally, I think we're gonna see a lot of Kratos and Travis Scott. These two are some of the rarest collabs now because they simply never return. We had no idea they were limited time. It gets to the point where even the person Fortnite collab with can't do anything. Like when people beg for Arcane to come back and Riot shrugged their shoulders. Another part of this is simply the fact you weren't here when they were sold. The real problem there is just regretting all of Fortnite's cool events. There are tons of people playing the game right now who never got to experience Travis Scott's Astronomical or even the Season X End event. But luckily, Epic is actually solving this by bringing them back. At least the original events like the End are going to be recreated in Fortnite OG. But as for Travis Scott or Ariana's concert, yeah, you're going to regret missing that for the rest of your life. Now let's move on to Doom's Ultra Armor. I mean, this might be one of the most frustrating items in Fortnite history outside of like the Infinity Blade. At least the Infinity Blade was guaranteed to appear, but this had a 1 in 20 chance of showing up in your match, and when it did, there was only one on the map. If you didn't get to try it, I'm sure you'll regret it. Now, Godzilla was the total opposite. Nothing sounded cooler than playing as him. Who wouldn't want to stomp on enemies and control a kaiju the size of a skyscraper? Well, most Fortnite players refused to play as him when it happened because he sucked. Epic were so scared of this being overpowered, they basically limited it to like 30 seconds, and it ended up becoming a gigantic waste of time. Also, to this day, I personally regret trolling enemies, and so does the community. One of the greatest parts of Fortnite was taking out a sweat and then laughing at them, or even doing take the L. Except this basically became a trolling epidemic, and it got to the point where Epic for some reason didn't want people rage quitting. Because of all of that, they turned off confrontational emotes by default, but everyone's fun is over. Also, I think there's some people who regret talking to AI Darth Vader as well.
Darth, what do I do if I have 1 health?
Perhaps you should have considered that before running around with a pink flamingo head.
Now let's talk about the players that regret making Peely popular. Personally, I love this guy, especially the running joke where he keeps dying. But ever since he showed up in a random battle pass in Chapter 1, he has become one of the many mascots of Fortnite. The point where everyone already owns like 5 versions of him, so do we really need more of them taking up battle pass slots? Here's a tale as old as time. Complaining about sweats is getting us the exact opposite. You gotta acknowledge that the main reason most new players quit Fortnite is the skill gap. There are just so many sweats now with years of experience, it's hard to keep up. Thanks to all the backlash, Fortnite responded by getting rid of real people. Now, you can load into modes designed for new players like Blitzer Royale and come up against 90% bot lobbies. If you're gonna take a lesson from this video, it should be this. It happens every season. We all drop in, try out the fun new items, and within hours, they have been nerfed into the ground. The community often takes everything so seriously and doesn't allow weapons to settle in or give themselves time to adapt to them. And then we all suffer because Epic makes them unusable with nerfs. Sometimes I feel like a hypocrite because I also jump on the train with this type of stuff. And even for me, it's so hard not to like knee-jerk react to stuff, but including myself here, we all need a little patience. Those were things Fortnite players regret. It's been Tommy, and keep it here on Top 5 Gaming.